Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcellus Joyner, uh, not immediate past chair of REMCo, former chair of REMCo during the pandemic. Uh, this morning, we bring to you, or this morning, REMCo presents Blackademia and Hip-Hop, Episode 1. Uh, this morning, we have our guest of honor, Mr. Forrest Foster. I'm going to let Forrest introduce himself, and then we're going to get started.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I'm Forrest Foster, Assistant Dean of Library Services at North Carolina A&T State University, and just happy to be here. It's a cool concept, so appreciative of the hospitality and offer to be here.
All right, so we're going to jump right into the questions, and we're going to start with the academic questions. In what ways do you incorporate hip hop culture into your library programs or events to engage the community?
So yeah, I mean, over the past, and first let me say this because I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the culture right now in regards to libraries. But I mean, I think libraries are the hub, right? It's the information center of any campus, being that I work at a campus entity, right? So, you know, us being able to talk about solar eclipses or talk about AI or talk about real estate or hip hop music theater is essential, right? Because we're kind of like the conduit to all these academic departments. So at first, I want to say that. So being able to voice our opinions and talk about intellectual freedom and freedom of expression is so important. And the way we incorporate that is number one, usually we kind of do what everybody else does, right? We kind of, look at the resources, right? So if there's a particular resource that's centered around hip hop, we want to purchase those resources. We want to make sure our collection is diverse and making sure that we're catering to each student or an academic department, right? Because we know a lot of times that professors and instructors are doing a lot of stuff with a variety of content centered around hip hop, music, and so forth. The next thing we do is, how do you promote that those resources or content? And in the past, we have created Zooms and multimedia videos to talk about, the top five NCs or the top five greatest producers of all time, just to try to get that engagement with students and faculty, right, and the outside community. And so we'll have discussions sometimes, or it just might be a video to kind of highlight those topics and then make the correlation of, okay, if you like these artists or if you like these producers, we have resources on them in the library. So trying to make that connection, exposure, informing, and try to ensure that students know that, we have a variety of resources in the library.
I think that's an awesome approach because when you mentioned faculty, and I think I've discussed this with some of the other members of the executive board of REMCo. When I was talking about this concept is, what the 50th anniversary just this past year. So there's a lot of us who are, were born between 70 to 75. We're right there along with the inception of hip hop. And a lot of us are well into our careers if you were born in the early 70s.
Right.
So it's very interesting how the conversation would go with someone who's been around since the inception of hip hop versus current students currently in college and who are listening today. Plus, where we are with technology, not only are they able to listen to what's current, but they're also able to go back and listen to the beginning if they so choose. So I think that creates an atmosphere for great conversation and great intersections for people to come together with.
Well, definitely. I mean, you're always going to have generational gaps, whether it's music, whether it's just life in general, right? Or whether it could be any type of category. But, again, you have certain spaces where you can bridge those gaps, right? And I think libraries can do that in many different aspects, not just hip hop, but in all aspects of life. So yeah, it's a vital component there as well.
Can you share a specific instance where hip hop played a role in fostering a sense of inclusivity, and diversity within the library?
Um, so yeah, so we talk about inclusivity, and we talk about some of the programming. Um, so a couple years ago, we really wanted to. This is at my previous institution. We wanted to cater to, uh, a lot of times we have a certain, we kind of cast the net and we want to reach different demographics, right? So we really wanted to go out and be cutting edge, I guess you could say. But we really started to do a lot of work on like fantasy football, really trying to bridge those gaps as we just talked about, right? Trying to bring in more uh, different students, and but it kept always coming back to hip hop, and I think because of the individuals that were working in the library, that kind of seemed to be the common denominator in regards to the love, right? The passion for what we, besides work, our offshoot passion was hip hop. So we've created a lot of a hip hop, uh, I guess, instruction, right? So we really focused on back then, and I'm not going to give any dates, but the information literacy standards were real popular then. Of course, we know now it's grown over time to framework and social justice and moving forward. But I think at least with information literacy standards, those are kind of the foundation of information literacy. Knowing how to access information, evaluate information, share ethically, and so forth. But what we kind of created was in the teaching aspect, and it's really experiential learning, is where we tried to show. Well, we didn't try. We showed how creating hip hop music and how that correlates to having kind of information literacy skill concepts, right? So when I mean traditional hip hop production, I mean like sampling, right? So understanding how to dig or find music, understanding how to chop up or create music, understanding how to be ethical with the samples that you use, because that's a big deal. And traditionally in hip hop, and actually as of now, right, understanding new ways to create music. I know sampling has been a big issue in regards to making sure your samples get cleared, making sure you go through the publisher, you get your masters, and making sure you're signing off on all the right documents, right? So, and that's created another avenue in hip hop. Nowadays you're probably getting a lot more traditional musicians who want to bypass the sampling, so they won't have to go through all those clearances and all that. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about sports, coaching, how to coach, and how that encompasses critical thinking and information literacy skills. But there are some videos out there that I would love to share. We can put them in the description in these videos on how to, or how we used hip hop production, how to be creative, how to sample and create music, and how that correlates with information literacy skills.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, especially the production part. Me and my friends actually, um, just to kind of kill some time in college, and I mean even now, we'll sit and listen to hip hop sometime and try to guess like what's the underlying if someone did a sample, what's the underlying sample? Like I think a lot of people might be surprised. And I mean, and you could do research if you think I may be mistaken, but I think Nas's one of Nas's songs, uh, maybe New York State of Mind, where at the beginning it sounds like a horn being played over and over again, and a plane, kind of like a plane taking off. I think that was sampled from one of Donald Byrd's songs called Flight Time. And
Right.
it's just a loop, the looping of that. That's one of my favorites because I actually I started listening to Nas and jazz at the same time.
Okay.
Um, so that sample always stood out to me. So I think that's awesome in a much deeper way to get students involved in the intricacies of it, not just what's on the surface, but what
Well,
lies underneath.
yeah, I mean, then then you have the capability of partnering with the music students, right? Fine art students, right? And that's kind of what we did at one point in time. We just, collaborating with the professors there and understanding there's different levels to creating music. There's different types of ways to sample. There's filtering, there's chopping, there's micro chopping. There's, there's different ways to be creative, right? And it just goes back to that creativity and the critical thinking of how you can create music, but still at the end of the day, making sure that you're ethical and you're being, yeah, you're doing the right things, right? So, yeah.
All right. Has your personal connection to hip hop impacted your approach to promoting literacy and education within the library?
Well, yeah. So, yeah, it's very kind of similar to what we just talked about in regards to the hip hop production. Yeah, I'll just speak on that a little more. So, we had also had the opportunity to uh, go to LOX, which is I like to call it information literacy conference. It was centered around information literacy, where we kind of demonstrated a lot of those techniques and skills with the production side of things, and that went real well. Um, we were able to attend ACRL one year. I think I want to say 2017, and highlight actually there was a combination of individuals who created a kind of like a working group, or wasn't a formal committee, but it was like a working group to where we were highlighting resources and sharing resources um, about hip hop resources at the time, just developing and just giving more exposure to hip hop. So we were doing the ACRL circuit, we were doing LOX, actually, demonstrating and teaching, doing lightning rounds about the hip hop and how that coincides with information literacy. So yeah, I mean, we're active. We've been active. We're going to continue to be active. And again, when time permits, I would love to, post up some of those videos to get that real life interaction with it. Very cool stuff.
All right. In what ways have you observed hip hop serving as a bridge to connect with younger generations and encourage their involvement in library activities?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, you know, the culture, right? I mean, the culture kind of dictates that, you know what I mean? Whether it's pro or con, right? I mean, you see the culture in media, in corporate world, you see it in higher ed, right? And libraries, we're just a microcosm of all that, right? So uh, it's going to trickle down to us, right? But I mean, there's a lot of individuals who are doing great things, not only in higher ed, but in libraries too. Um, there's an individual, Ralph McDaniels, of Queens Public Library, who is well, I'm not going to say former, but during the 90s and 2000s, and a little bit probably forward than that, he was one of the major music producers in the game. He's done some music production, but I think his claim to fame was the Music Box in New York, video music box. He produced that. Now he's in libraries and he's doing a lot of programming in Queens Public Library, bringing in some of that, the five elements into the libraries to educate students on that. You have this professor at University of Virginia, who recorded the first peer-reviewed hip hop album. You have Chicago Public Library, who has traditionally always done a lot of creative things with their music studios and audio production rooms, where I think Chance the Rapper kind of got his start in that library, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a lot of individuals doing a lot of great things, and I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. Of course, we're continuing to do our things here at A&T. A few years ago, we did a Tiny Tech Talk, Tiny Desk concert, excuse me. Um, and we collaborate with the students. We wanted to be student, centered. So we collaborate with the student group, and that's a story in itself. Working with students and make sure they're on time and they're committed, and um, but yeah, I mean, we were able to pull it off, and it was great. It was very similar to the Tiny Desk concert you see on NPR. So shout out to NPR; they do a great job. The tone, the texture, and the vibe was very similar. I think the students pulled it off. We had it here in the library, which was great because we wanted to promote the library space. We wanted students to come out and enjoy that space. And again, that's up on the online too, so we can share that as well. But we had about 200 or 300 students here, and then we were rocking. You know, the vibe was real chill, and
Mhm.
we had a great time. It was a great time. Then you know we've done open mics at my previous institutions, which is a little different, but it's still hip hop centered, and talking about poetics and poetry and rhyme. So it's all coming from the same umbrella of freedom of expression and um, intellectual freedom. So.
And what institution was that? You could say the name.
Oh yeah, that was Winston-Salem State. We've done a lot of my core work was at Winston-Salem State. That was a great spot to really be creative, and sometimes you have your major responsibility duties, right, and your core work. But I always tell people, always find ways to infuse your hobbies in your work, right? Because then it could be so fulfilling, right? And again, we're at the center of information, so anything's a go in libraries. I always tell people everywhere I go, we're at the center because information is at the center of everything we do. Anything is a go in libraries. The way we share it, communicate it, debate it, suppress it when some individuals try to suppress it, right? Those are talking points right there that we can always be at the center of engagement in terms of information in libraries.
Now, this next question, I think you've hit on points in this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway,
Yeah.
so you can elaborate a little bit more. How do you see the future intersection of hip hop and library services evolving, and what role do you envision yourself playing in that development?
Um, yeah, we, I the more the culture moves forward with technology, the more the culture moves forward with uh, specifically, AI. The culture changes, the culture is shifting. Um, Libraries will always be at the center because, as what I said before, in information and how we are at the pulse. Uh, at the cutting edge of each culture shift. We talked, well, we didn't talk about it, but we've talked about before how the internet kind of put a fork in the road and libraries had to adjust, right? There's been several times where we had to do that. Social media, we had to pivot and find a way to make it work. AI, just another derivative of technology. We find a way to make it work. So no matter what happens, libraries will always be relevant. No matter what technology you put in front of it, there's no substitute for the human touch, human feel, human relation. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're gonna continue to do what we do, try to find ways to diversify the collection, try to find ways to connect with the students or the local community, whatever library you're at. Um, and yeah, I mean that's just nothing's going to change. We're just going to always have to adapt to the change, right? And um, show our value as always, and connect with the community or the colleges or units.
How has hip hop music shaped your cultural identity and influenced the way you perceive the world around you? We'll get into the more
Yeah.
personal questions now.
So ask that again.
How has hip hop music shaped your cultural identity and influenced the way you perceive the world around you?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I mean, it's one of my passions, right? I mean, we all probably have several passions outside of work, but I think growing up, I moved around a lot. I had a chance to experience uh, and had exposure in moving. I always say that my parents' move was probably one of the best educations of my life in terms of being able to see exposure, different ethnicities, different individuals, different cultures. And so I think that has benefited me today. But I'll say right behind that, I would put hip hop music. Honestly, there was a song from Stetson Sonic called Africa. It was Africa.
Angola, Soweto, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Zambia, Mozambique, and Botswana. So let us speak
About
about the motherland.
you know what I mean? So
Yes, sir.
I heard that in second grade, and I'm gonna be honest with you. We didn't have a lot of Black history. We didn't get the ethnic culture education.
Right.
And when I heard that, that blew my mind. Not because it rhymed, not because it was the beat. It was informing. It was enlightening, right? Now the beat and the rhyme helped, but at the core of all that was the information I was learning.
Yes, sir.
And that changed my trajectory and my thought process of enlightenment, education, uh, and of course hip hop.
Right.
Uh, it's just my mind. I was educated. I learned something. There's no good feeling like learning something. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You could. I know everybody has their vices or have their hobbies that they like, um, but there's no substitute for when you learn and you get that nugget and you actually learn something. It changes you. You want more of it. You know what I mean? Like you gravitate towards it, and that changes people. Like that changes the direction of where you are to where you want to go. And
Yeah.
that was a pivotal moment. So shout out to Stetson Sonic.
One thing I'll
First,
say, one
actually,
thing
the
I'll say
first.
about that song
Hold on one second.
is
Actually, the first hip hop band. One of the first hip. A lot of people think the Roots was the first hip hop band. I know they had live instruments prior to in the '70s, but I guess quote unquote official band. I mean, you really could say Stetson Sonic was one of the first official hip hop bands that not only played but rapped as well. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I mean, well, I'm gonna ask you a question once I make so I'm glad you brought that up because when I heard that song, I knew one, definitely how to spell Africa, and two, whenever I took a geography test that had anything to do with Africa, I knew that I was going to pass at least the part about
Yeah, you're right. Right.
about South Africa. So,
Well, no doubt. Yeah, my
like
dad. Yeah,
like
my
I
dad
said,
was
shout
big.
out to Stetson Sonic.
No doubt. My dad was big on geography, and shout out to I didn't know I was going to speak on this today, but shout out to Mr. Shanka, my fifth grade teacher. We used to do geography tests. Like we used to have like competitions. So two individuals come up to the front of the desk, and he would name the state, and we would have to say the capital, or vice versa. He would name the capital. We have to say the state. So I learned a lot about geography that way. Um, and I wonder if he ever knew about that song. Uh,
I don't know because I'm thinking when Stetson Sonic made that song, apartheid was in the heat of apartheid, wasn't it?
it could, yeah, yeah. Well, apartheid was going on for a long time. So, uh,
Yeah,
um,
but we were getting to the point where it was being like you said, like music is a vehicle. So by them putting that song out, it was putting the message out. But simultaneously, you also had TV shows like A Different World
oh
that
yeah,
focused in on Black colleges and HBCUs, and they did not shy away from talking about apartheid at all. So that's kind of like another intersection where hip hop. I don't know if invaded was is the proper word, but it definitely cemented itself in the culture or began to seep into the culture.
definitely, 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 totally agree. Yeah.
Can you share a specific moment or experience where hip hop where well, okay, you kind of already done this, but if you have another where a hip hop song or artist had a significant impact on your emotions or perspective.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I know we talked about Stetson Sonic, but there's been plenty others. That was a highlight just because I think of the age, it was impressionable. You know what I mean? But after that, I mean, yeah, you could. I think the one of the first individuals, I would say was LL Cool J. Just because there's different types of hip hop, as we all know, right? Just different forms and different types. But LL at the time for me was, he had that bravado. You know what I mean? He had the cool factor. I know people call it swag and lit now, but cool is the first cool, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, what LL taught me was it's okay to have a little braggadocious and a little bit of ego, because sometimes you need that ego to get you going, to get you through those barriers, to get you through those things you might not think that you can get through. Some people might call it imposter syndrome or whatever. But sometimes whatever the case may be, sometimes you need that little ego to get you through, right? Just know how to manage it. You don't want to go overboard with it, but in his style too, very cool. Um, but the braggadocious and the ego was what captivated me with LL. Yeah, LL he was the epitome of cool back in 85, 86, right? And even now, I mean, he's gone on to do great things. He's kind of, he'll always be an MC, I'm sure, but he's into to the TVs and acting, and he's been on TV for the past 15, 20 years now, making a career out of CIS. So
Oh yeah, and pressing on with the newest entry of it, CSI Hawaii. So yeah, he's definitely like he's definitely matured as the culture has matured, but also showed that you can venture off into different venues and take the culture with you.
definitely, definitely, definitely. Next I would say probably I was a big fan of A Tribe Called Quest, right? Which is a little different than LL. In particular, I would say Q-Tip just because of uh his diction, his wordplay in the sense of his word choice, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that was really the my second like rocket moment where I took off and I was being educated, right? He would use words like elation, so I had to go in the dictionary and find out what elation meant. He would be talking about excursions, right? Like this is back in 91. I was probably eighth grade, maybe seventh grade. I know I'm giving my age, but just the asterisk. I wasn't born between 70 or 75. So uh, yeah, Q-Tip made just the wordplay. Well, not so much the wordplay, but the diction, right? His choice of words was the thing that captivated me, and plus their musical tracks too. It was very jazzy, it was very laid back, very cool, right?
Yeah.
So, and then last, I mean, I know I probably can go on, but I want to keep track of time here. I have to say Nas in the aspect of concepts. Uh, yeah, the storytellings are great, but to me, it's a constant. The concepts, the way he chooses his words, how descriptive he is. I guess that's the thing. Like you can be descriptive without telling a story. You
Hmm.
you can be descriptive in just a regular rhyme. Like I think a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on the storytelling, which is true, but he's descriptive in everything he does, whether it's a story, whether it's just a braggadocious rhyme, whether it's a concept song. So yeah, I mean, I think his concepts are great though. He doesn't limit himself to just one track or one avenue or one state of mind, right? But so yeah, he's done it for me over the years, and I know his last couple albums. He's had 6 albums in the past 3 years, so he's been on another tear. And those albums are, I'm gonna be honest with you, are probably as good as anything he's ever put out. The music that sounds current, right?
Hmm.
Is his of course we all know he can rhyme, but uh, the content, what he's talking about too. He's always there on the content and on the concepts.
Something to make you think.
Yeah, something to make you think and something to make he's catering really to our generation, right? And I know we're gonna get into this later, but we talk about how hip hop will develop over time, evolution, progression, right? He's the pillar. He's like the corona who's taking control of it and showing older generation, the younger generation, seasoned newbies, kind of how to move forward, right? And do
Mhm.
it in a way that's not corny, that's not lacking, that's fitting for our era, right?
Right. But also not selling yourself out.
That's true. Yeah,
Being still consistently being himself.
no doubt.
Because I definitely feel he is one of those MCs that when he started, he pushed it to another level. Before him, for me, it was Rakim. Like, you had the 70s and the way people were rhyming, then Rakim came and then everybody changed the way they rhyme. They had to, or else it was they were done.
Right. Right.
And Nas took it to the next level after him. So and that's something or a concept that can be talked about down the line. Like, who are these pivotal MCs that changed the game with the way they rhymed?
Right.
Another thing about him was it was everything you said about him, but it was the fact that I think Nas maybe maybe 2 years older than me or a year and a half. So it was how well put together it was. Like that first album.
Mhm.
That first album, I think I may have been like a junior or a senior in high school, and when I heard it, I was just like, "Where is this cat from?" I'm saying,
Very, very,
I knew he was from New York, but I was like,
very mature for his age. You know what
"It's
I mean?
like, man, what in the world? Where did this dude come from?"
Well, you can tell he probably seen a lot.
Yeah.
Just by those songs and those themes and concepts and titles and what he was talking about and how he was meshing it all together, right? And then you add
Hmm.
the flow and then you add in the cadence. You could just tell he was a little more mature and he had the it fact. He had the it factor,
Yeah.
right? He had that intangible, right? And sometimes in sports and work and it's hard to find those individuals who have the it factor, right? And he had it, right?
Yeah.
He had that.
And another telling thing, because to me, that was still maybe like the toddler stage of hip hop when, New York is the mecca when it
Right.
comes to hip hop. But, those early days, everyone else who around the country who's listening to them is getting a glimpse into life for we're mostly African Americans
Mm.
in New York.
Right.
But
Right.
but as the culture has progressed and other MCs have come from different areas, we're also sharing in our experiences as African Americans or Puerto Ricans or anyone else who loves hip hop
Right.
in your area. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So it's just like, just really to me, it made me realize how like maybe not just a big city like New York, but just like any large city that's considered a metro in
Mhm.
any part of the country, how you may have to mature a little bit faster because of how fast and how big the city is and how it moves.
Mm.
Um, I mean, but also, his home atmosphere as well. His dad was a very well versed jazz musician as well. So, all those things come into play.
Definitely. Definitely.
Are there particular lyrics or verses from hip hop songs that have stuck with you over time, and and why do they hold significance for you? I'm laughing because we were both kind of rhyming to Stetson Sonic at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's been plenty of hip hop songs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll say yeah. Now the next question is, where were they? So yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's been plenty. There's one song called "Blurred." Um, and it goes something like, "Clickbait triggers your emotional vices, prey on your conscience." Right, and I was gonna do it, but I'm not gonna do it. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Well, you're kind of on the spot right now, so it's
Yeah,
probably a
yeah,
little
yeah.
brain fog.
Yeah, yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it. But yeah, there's been plenty of songs that have sparked and engaged. But I don't know. Maybe we can edit it in there or something. Maybe we can edit it in there, and
Yeah,
I'll,
we can figure it out.
I'll share it with you. I'll share it with you. But yeah, it's called Blurred. But it's really about. Actually, it's fairly new. It's about uh, the past, I guess, 7, 8 years. How the culture is blurred. It's just blurred. Information's blurred, culture's blurred, social norms blurred, gender norms blurred, cops using discretion blurred. right? DEI practices blurred, right? So everything
Yeah.
is blurred, right? There's no new footing. Everybody's trying to gain this new traction and where this culture is going moving forward. Sometimes it goes back, sometimes it goes back up, right? Um, so yeah, we're in a peculiar place right now as far as culturally and as far as this country is concerned.
Yeah, definitely stranger times and stranger things
No doubt.
going on right now.
Yeah.
How has hip hop influenced your personal style from fashion choices to overall self-expression?
Yeah, I think more than anything, those three individuals I mentioned earlier, just, self-esteem, right? Added, education, right? Uh, and then continuous learning, being creative, really. Because at the end of the day, I think I definitely I'm a creative, right? And that falls into a lot of aspects of what I do now, whether it's writing a journal article, whether it's collaborating on a book chapter, whether it's collaborating with entities on campus to create multimedia projects on highlighting faculty research, right? Writing grants, participating in writing grants. So all that creative energy really comes from hip hop, from my experience, right? Um, I can't solely give it to hip hop, but that has been a large portion of my um, influence. And not only that, it's therapeutic, it's
Oh
healthy,
yeah, yeah.
it's a release, man. It's a stress reliever. You know what I
It
mean?
it makes me think about it makes me think about I'm what is it? I'm gonna get you, sucker. You
Mhm.
know, at the during the movie Hammer and uh Kenny Ivory Wayne's character both have bands
Uh-huh.
or hip hop groups representing their theme music, and like everybody kind of has their own theme music. So it's the soundtrack of our lives. It's your contemporary sound, the contemporary soundtrack to your life.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, of course, we might not, and so, and I don't know. This might be the next question, which kind of is a good segue. Um, but I'll still let you ask it. But yeah, I mean, it's hip hop is still young, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we've
It's only
seen
50.
right, and we've seen other genres, right, fade, come and go and fade, and there was always the notion that hip hop would kind of die out, and that's why it's important. Even though I'm going to let you ask the question, I think it's important that we, as hip hop culture, continue to produce, create, and be creators of this culture, and not be stagnant. Um, we all know that it is cut from a cloth of young culture, right? It started that way. However, right, to make this thing last the test of time and progress and move forward, um, you have to continue to grow, right? Just like a plant, you got to water it. You can't be stuck in the same stagnation, right? So, um, yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
And to your point, well, one thing, or this is just my personal opinion and my own personal experience. When I was at A&T and started and took a appreciation of jazz class, which really covered the history of jazz, I saw a lot of correlation, similarities between the path that hip hop and both jazz took.
Mm.
Um, Once we started seeing, and once I took that class and understood jazz history and how it's progressing, how it's still progressing, I started to realize that hip hop took a lot of the same, pretty much took the same trip. History often repeats itself, and I think as a society, we've heard it that phrase, but we're kind of blind to it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so once I took that class and understood the path that jazz took and saw that hip hop took a lot of the similar steps. I was like, it's not going anywhere. And as we see right now, it's not. a genre. It's the current genre
Yeah.
of the world, is not just the United States. But I'm going to segue into our final question. Has your appreciation for hip hop evolved over time? And if so, how has it shaped your evolving taste and preference?
Yeah, and I just want to kind of tie this into the last question into this one. Yeah, so I tell anyone, I for a few for a few years I was in the band, seventh, eighth, and ninth grade, 10th grade too, and that opened me up to how to play music, right? So you have theory, right, and then you have people who, so you have people who understand, then you have people who feel it, right? Um, Feeling it is, yeah, you can, it's in regards to creating music. Like when you feel something, yeah, you can probably get it out, but it might not be sound. It might not be in the right key, or it might not, you know how to get something out, like when you're playing the piano, but it might not be in the right key, and it might not have that theory that you need sometimes, right? But then when you have the theory and understanding, you know how things are in the right signature or in the right key, and you can be more creative when you have an understanding of something. So I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything, but having that experience in middle school playing, I did play the sax for a couple of years. You know, I understand key signatures and notes and tones and melodies, and having an understanding how to create that. Now, does that always carry over to creating music? Not always, right? But having an understanding, and this just goes to just learning and educating, not yourself, but making sure that if you want to learn how to do something or be inventive or creative, mastery and having an understanding of how to do something definitely helps, right? um, it definitely helps. So for those that want to learn something, go out and learn it, get educated on it. um, and as Don says, the world is yours. But in regards to this last question, Andre 3000 mentioned recently about, I think he has like a flute album. I don't think it's a flute, but I'm, for lack of a better word, because I don't know what the actual instrument is, I'm gonna call it a flute.
It's a flute, but it has like
Flute, something.
it has like a specific, it's a specific kind of flute.
Right,
So
right,
for us novices, it's a flute.
right. So he mentioned that, you know, he's not in the space right now to rap, rhyme, or be lyrical, or at least put anything out. He might be doing it, but not putting it out. And he mentioned that, he didn't think, and I'm paraphrasing, he didn't think that in this day and age, and I'm sure he's probably upper 40s, maybe 50s, that he wouldn't be comfortable, talking about the things that 50-year-olds go through. He didn't think that would be, um, I guess, popular, to the populace, right? Um, and I think Andre 3000 is amazing in regards to creativity, right? The things that him and Big Boy have been able to do, who make up Outkast, and his solo stuff. Andre is amazing, and he's always um, pushing the envelope as far as being creative. But just his comment on that is, and again, everybody can have their own opinions. I know we talked about this prior to getting on here, and everybody's in their own headspace, and they are where they are in the situation in life. And I understand it. I guess my reflection on it is, if we don't, though, talk about those 50-year-old things, right? Whether it's colonoscopies, whether it's taking your kids to daycare, whether it's cooking meals, right? We limit ourselves in what hip hop can be. All right. Hip hop just doesn't stop at age 22. It's not, it doesn't stop at 20, right? 28, right? So for those innovators and those MCs who are 50 and 55, please continue to push the envelope, because that's what's gonna keep hip hop growing, right? No stalemating, right? Push the
Yeah.
envelope, keep talking about things that are going on in your life now, right? Just as Nas is doing, right? And it'll create the culture. It'll keep continue to push and evolve the culture. I mean, that's the only way, right? That's the only way. I
Right.
mean, I hear these conversations all the time. Oh, he's he's too old to rap. I mean, he's 40. What does he do? Well, I mean, number one, I mean, if you do it for the love, then you do it for the love, right?
Right.
And then the other segue of that is, it depends on what position you're in, right? If you're in it for in the music business, now that's a different thing because you have to do certain things to cater to bring in income and create money for this entity, right? But if you're doing it for love and it's therapeutic and you're passionate about it and it gets you through the day and it makes you feel better, then that's the other side of things, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty to talk about. I think what and I trust me, like Andre is my one of my favorite. He's one of those ones where he's one of those MCs that when he's on something or he has his own stuff, I'm gonna listen to it. You have those albums like in the early Outkast albums. That's just press play.
Right.
Period. You know what I'm saying? From beginning to end. So, I mean, I respect him for his opinion about that,
Right.
but I think he's missing um that there's a lot to talk about. And you don't have to talk about just those things that 50-year-olds or 40-year-olds go through. I mean, I think for a lot of people or MCs out there is like if you're a one trick pony and you only got one focus, then yeah, if you're 50 and you're still talking about holding down the block,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I kind of get that, but I mean, there's if you're versatile, then there's plenty of you for you to talk about. No matter how old you get.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you said, I respect his opinion. And again, I am by no way will ever be in the shoes of Andre 3000, right? I can't look through his lens. I've never stepped where he's been. So I get that, you know what I mean? And I probably will never be able to, step in the shoes and give an opinion in his shoes for him. So I
Yeah.
respect his opinion. I understand it. I'm sure he has, if there's one artist that has pressure on him to, if he ever did come out and make an album, he's the one to have all that pressure
Right.
to follow through with some magnum opus and some great album, right? So, and I get that.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, his lyrics definitely have been therapeutic for me. One that I can always think about when I'm thinking about I need to hustle is where he's talking about I was in the mall the other day, heard a call from the other way
right, right,
where I
right.
just came from. Some dudes just saying something,
Yep.
talking about, hey man, you remember from school? No, not really.
Right, right, right. I mean,
But when he's breaking down how I'm on par with you, like people working 9 to 5s, like if you don't move your feet, then I don't eat. So we're like neck and neck. You know, he's like, I got more fans than the average man, but don't get caught up in that. Like we pretty much in the same situation.
the funny thing is about that, he could say that right now and then it's still hit.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? So I know he's capable of dropping something and it connecting. It's just, is he comfortable in doing it? You know?
Right. Right. I mean, but all he's showing everybody is like, look, I'm not just that one thing.
Oh yeah, no
And
doubt.
when he dropped the album, I was like, well, this is an instrumental, so I was like, watch how fast it's gonna get sampled.
Mhm. Oh yeah, no doubt.
You know what I'm saying? So,
And then too, maybe that's I don't know if he's doing this, but that would be a cool play, right? I mean, because actually you might get more, receive more proceeds and get back, as the young folks say, than you would if you dropped the album. Because sampling, that's a business in itself. Like,
mhm.
if somebody sampled anything, I don't know what type of individual he is. I don't know if he says, yeah, just take it. It's it's for the cause, it's for the art. Or he could be like some individuals, yeah, pay me and I'm gonna charge you this and this and this. I don't know. I don't never met him, but he seems as an artist. So, but I mean,
My
somebody
personal
wanting to do
opinion,
that
my personal opinion is that as much grief as some people gave him about this album, I definitely definitely would charge.
charge me. Yeah, I mean that's just So again, it's the business side of things I get, but I would love for him to drop something, and I think whatever he talks about, which would be probably in his space, I think people would love it. I really would. Got to keep the culture growing, man. Got to keep the culture growing, and that's the only way. Is the elders keep producing, keep evolving, and keep putting it out.
Right. Well, before we go, Foster, do you have any shout outs? And these could be, major label MCs, homeboys from around the way, people you've kicked it with that have made music or make music, local, any North Carolina MCs you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I say this. I don't want to. I'm not specifically gonna call any names because I know I'll leave somebody out, and somebody see this and they might get mad. So, for all the individuals that do it professionally and who do it for the passion and do it for the love and outside the business or in the business, shout out to you all. Shout out to all the individuals I know who are in the business that are doing their thing, and for the ones that are working 9 to 5 and they're coming home and they're doing it because they love it. Shout out to all the producers out there that make it happen, and to the people in between, all the engineers and the managers out there. Because I'm telling you, man, I go to several studios and there's a lot of individuals who have love for this. They might not be MCs, then it might not be producers, but it's the engineers, it's the mastering people who sitting through these studio sessions that they do it for the love, man, and they're part of that the creativity too. Those
Right.
engineers, man. You got to have an ear, you got to have an understanding of music. Mixing and mastering. Those are key elements to what that end product sounds like.
Yeah, and they're probably people who keep their jobs the longest in hip hop too.
No
Because
doubt.
you can be by the scene behind the scenes for as long as your ears can hear and your fingers can move.
Yeah. So shout out to all of them, and yeah, keep doing what you do. You make it enjoyable for us. That's what
And
I.
I think we got just a few more minutes, man. Give me your top five.
Oh man, that was a good one right there. I wasn't expecting that. I'm going with Nas, man, just because of he. And here's the thing. I don't. I'm gonna say this. I don't know if he's the best. I can't say he's the best, right? There's plenty of MCs out here that can rhyme and twist their tongue around and metaphors this and double entendre this, but he connects with me. Especially these last couple of albums. He's shown me that he still has it. He's still relevant, and so yeah, him number one. Man. Whew. Well, today at 11:55, April 10th. Don't hold me to it, but this is right now. Uh, I'm gonna put Jay-Z in there. I know some people might not like that. Some people probably love it, but he's so talented, man. I don't always agree with what he says or his hustle mentality. I respect the hustle, but his natural talent of just deliver not so much delivery, but the way he comes up with rhymes and lyrics and these double entendres is never seen before in my perspective. Um, and this is personal. All this is personal. Not I don't have a rubric in front of me, but this is just personal. I'll have to go back to Big Daddy Kane, man. Big Daddy Kane was an influence on me coming up. He was you want to talk about versatility. He could rhyme, he could dance when
Mhm.
dancing was in style. When you kind of had to be versatile, you would have Scoop and Scrap Lover dancing behind him. They would be, in sync,
Mhm.
doing all the dance sets. He could rhyme the braggadocious, he talked about the 5% nation, all types of uh
The smooth operator.
smooth operator. He would talk about 5%ers. He would talk about Africa. He would
Yeah.
talk about he had songs for the girls. So gotta put Kane in there. And he's
Oh
still
yeah.
still
Most definitely. Shout out to Big Daddy, who is now a resident of the Bull City. Well, been a resident of the Bull City for a minute now.
okay. Okay. Yeah, no, yeah. He's moved out. He goes by Kane now. Excuse me. He
Oh
goes by
yes, yes, Kane.
all right. I'm sorry about that. What's that? Three again. 11:57 right now. I'm gonna go with Black Thought. Uh,
Ooh, it's the most slept on.
I know, when it comes to just picking up the mic and just have a stab at it, I think he's one of the best. I know he doesn't get considered, for in some categories because maybe he doesn't have the most, commercial music or whatever commercial is, right?
I think it's just because he's just not, as a person, not flashy.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with it.
You know?
Uh, I don't think he's tried to make over the top type of music. Like some of the albums he has put out lately have been kind of mellow, right? And so he gets the respect as a lyricist, but to the to the outer world, right? To the mainstream, he's always under the radar. But as far as
Yeah,
bringing it, picking up the mic and just talking about some concepts and rapping, he's definitely up there. What's that, four?
yeah.
Last one, yeah, man.
I see the wheels turning.
I'm gonna go with uh I know as soon as this is over, I know I'm gonna be slap myself because I can't think of any. I mean, I could think of. I just I want to pick a real good one. This is my personal, and it can change in 5 minutes. But influence. I'm not saying he's the best because he's not. He's not the best to me. But personally, uh, from 91 to 95, Q-Tip was the man to me, right? I know he doesn't check the box on everybody's list, but for me at that time, the music, again, he's a producer. The music he was creating, the rhymes he was saying, um, he couldn't do no wrong, man. And being that in those impressionable years, that was what, eighth grade to probably freshman year in college. He was, he was the go-to. Tribe was the go-to, and he was kind of the so-called leader of Tribe. And
Yeah. He's definitely in my top 20, but I'd have,
oh yeah, this is just me.
I'm not, I can't
Not saying
say
he's
at
the
this
best.
moment, I can't say where he's at in that top 20, but I definitely have Five Dog ranked over him
Oh man,
because I think a lot of people sleep on Five too.
no doubt. It's kind of like how Big Boy sleep on Big Boy in comparison to Andre, but I
Oh
think
yeah, yeah,
Q-Tip has much more versatility. Plus he produces. Plus, he just, again, this is just, I don't think he's the best top five, but just the influences on me. I'll say that. There's no way I could pick a best top five. It's just I couldn't. But those individuals left an impression on me, the most. And real quick, I don't know if we have time, but I'm gonna jump in here real quick. I know somebody mentioned earlier before we got started they wanted to talk about the J. Cole situation that just happened.
okay.
Um, and I'm not gonna preface it. I'm sorry, I don't want to take up too much time. I want to preface what happened, but he apologized. He put out a diss. He apologized to Kendrick Lamar, and people want to know pros and cons. Is that good? Is that bad for him? I'll say this. On one side of hip hop, battling is a thing. Like, battling is part of hip hop, right? So the individuals who are upset with him about that, I get it. I understand, right? Um, for those that understand the human side of things and uh, who understand where he's coming or who have been in certain positions like that to where you either can make a decision whether to do something or not to do something. And he chose not to do something. I commend him for it, right? We talk about self-awareness, we talk about mental health, right?
Emotional intelligence.
Right, and just being able to understand the situation at hand and uh having the autonomy to control his destiny at that moment in time because what he could have done could have changed the course of not, and I don't mean violence or anything, but I just mean like other things could have trickled down, right? Good or bad.
Right.
So I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because I understand what he was saying, but at the same time, hip hop is still hip hop, right? the battles are going to be there, right? And missing that opportunity, uh, because he's been real vocal about him being the best, claiming he's the GOAT and he'll battle anybody. He's, it's a little weird. It's new terrain, right? And so, um, I'm just a spectator, so I'm going to wait and see what happens. I'm not on either side, but I do understand both sides. So
Yeah, I think I just because I was kind of put off by the whole thing, so I haven't listened to either song all the way through. As I was kind of disinterested in them going at each other for some reason, but I love both of them to death. You know what I'm saying?
that's what we do as a culture.
Yeah,
We put our best against the best. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Wayne Gretzky, this person, Barry Bonds, who's the baseball player. We put the best versus the best, right?
yeah.
Um,
I
that's
mean, and it could be that he's just like, hey, I addressed it and I'm done with it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not, this is not 1980 and UTFO and Roxanne, the real Roxanne saga. So, you know,
But yeah, again, everything remains to be seen. We'll keep watching as spectators, and we'll see what happens. But again, I respect both sides. But hey, it's life, man. It's
yep.
life. You know.
Well, Forrest, I appreciate your time today, man. This has been Blackademia and Hip-Hop Culture, brought to you by REMCo. For those of you who want to tune in later, we have more episodes coming up in the future. Yeah.